They told me to be quiet, again, at my own kitchen table, in the house I paid for. My name is Dorothy Mitchell. And for 15 years, I was invisible in my own family. But I held the checkbook. And when you control the money, eventually, you learn you control everything. Before we dive in, I need to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your city and state in the comments. I love connecting with all of you. Now let me take you back to where this all started. It was a Tuesday morning in March when I realized I'd become a ghost. My daughter Jessica sat at my kitchen counter, planning her vacation to Hawaii, on my credit card. My son-in-law Brad scrolled through his phone, ignoring me completely. My son Marcus talked over me about needing a new car. And when I opened my mouth to speak, Jessica held up one finger without even looking at me. "Mom, not now. The adults are talking." I was 67 years old. I'd raised 2 children alone after my husband died young. I'd worked as a hospital administrator for 35 years, retired with a solid pension and savings. I'd paid off my mortgage, maintained my health, kept my independence. And somewhere along the way, I'd become the family ATM. It didn't happen overnight. It started small, like these things always do. Jessica needed help with her mortgage after Brad's business hit a rough patch. "Just temporary," she said. Marcus needed assistance with his daughter's private school tuition. His ex-wife wasn't contributing enough. My grandson Tyler needed college funds. My granddaughter Sophie needed braces. I said yes because that's what mothers do. That's what grandmothers do. We sacrifice. We provide. We make sure our families have what they need. But temporary became permanent. 1 month became 12. 1 year became 5. And 5 became 15. Jessica's mortgage payment, $2,800 monthly. Marcus's contribution to his daughter's expenses, $2,500 monthly. Jessica's car payment, $650. Marcus's credit card debt I'd absorbed, $18,000. Brad's business investment I'd funded, $25,000. Tyler's college tuition, $40,000 annually. The family phone plan, $340. Jessica's health insurance, $450. The list went on. I kept a ledger. I'm detail-oriented. It's the administrator in me. Every payment recorded, every date noted. Over 15 years, I'd given them $847,000. $847,000. I never asked for repayment. They were my children, my grandchildren. Family doesn't keep score, right? But somewhere along the line, their gratitude turned to expectation. Expectation turned to entitlement. And entitlement turned to silence. My silence. At family dinners, they talked around me, through me, over me. When I shared stories about my day, Jessica would interrupt with her own drama. When I offered advice, Marcus would say I didn't understand how things work now. When I suggested we discuss the financial situation, Brad would laugh and change the subject. The final straw came on a Sunday afternoon. We'd gathered at my house, because we always gathered at my house, the house I maintained, cleaned, and filled with food I bought. Jessica was complaining about her kitchen renovation being delayed. Brad wanted to upgrade to a luxury SUV. Marcus was planning a Vegas trip with his buddies. I cleared my throat. "I need to talk to everyone about..." "Mother." Jessica's voice was sharp. "We're having a conversation, please." I felt something crack inside my chest, not my heart, my patience. That night, I sat alone in my home office staring at my laptop screen. The ledger spreadsheet glowed back at me. Rows and rows of payments, transfers, covered bills. 15 years of financial records. 15 years of being taken for granted. I opened my banking app and looked at my accounts. Checking, savings, investment portfolio, retirement fund. All of it accessible to me. All of it under my control. I'd added Jessica and Marcus as authorized users years ago for emergencies. They had debit cards linked to my checking account. They knew my credit card numbers by heart. My finger hovered over the account settings. What if I just stopped? The thought felt revolutionary and terrifying at the same time. What kind of mother cuts off her children? What kind of grandmother says no? But then I remembered Jessica's finger held up to silence me. Brad's dismissive laugh. Marcus rolling his eyes when I spoke. The way they'd all continued their conversation as if I'd never opened my mouth. I thought about my friend Patricia from my book club. She'd told me about setting boundaries with her son after he'd drained her savings. "Dorothy," she'd said, "being a doormat doesn't make you a good mother. It makes you a used one." At the time, I'd thought she was being harsh. Now, sitting in the blue light of my computer screen at 11 p.m., her words felt like prophecy. I clicked into account settings, removed Jessica as an authorized user, removed Marcus, canceled their debit cards, changed all my passwords, set up two-factor authentication on everything. Then I went further. I called my credit card company and reported the cards compromised, requesting new numbers. I logged into my investment accounts and removed them as beneficiaries, replacing them with charities I'd always wanted to support. I contacted my mortgage company and removed their names from any documentation where I'd listed them as co-owners in case something happened to me. It took 3 hours. By 2 a.m., I'd systematically locked every financial door they'd been walking through freely. The last thing I did was draft a simple email. I didn't send it. I saved it in my drafts folder. "Dear Jessica and Marcus, effective immediately. I will no longer be covering your expenses. All accounts have been secured. All cards have been canceled. All automatic payments have been stopped. This is not a discussion. This is a decision. Love, Mom." But I didn't send it, because I wanted to watch what happened when the money simply stopped flowing without explanation. I wanted to see how long it took them to notice. I wanted to see if anyone would call to ask how I was doing, rather than calling to ask why their payment was declined. I know it sounds petty. Maybe it was. But after 15 years of being silenced, I wanted my actions to speak louder than any words they'd never let me finish. I went to bed that night, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Powerful. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls. I made myself coffee. Slowly, ground the beans by hand, heated the water to exactly 200 degrees, used my French press. I sat at my kitchen table, my table, and watched my phone buzz and light up like a Christmas tree. Jessica 6 calls Marcus, 5 calls Brad, 3 calls Jessica again, 3 more calls. Text messages flooded in. "Mom, my card was declined at Target. What's going on?" "Dorothy, the mortgage payment didn't go through. Call me immediately." "Mom, are you okay? Why aren't you answering?" "This isn't funny. Call me back." I sipped my coffee. It was excellent. Maybe the best coffee I'd ever made. The doorbell rang at 8:15. I knew who it would be before I opened it. Jessica stood on my porch, still in her yoga clothes, hair in a messy bun, face tight with panic. "Mom, what is happening? My card isn't working. The mortgage payment bounced. Brad tried your credit card and it was declined. Are you having banking issues? Have you been hacked?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When had she gotten those lines around her mouth? When had her eyes become so calculating? "Come in," I said. She rushed past me, already pulling out her phone. "We need to call the bank. If someone's stolen your identity." "No one stole anything, Jessica. Sit down." Something in my voice made her stop. She turned slowly, phone still in her hand. "I've secured my accounts," I said calmly. "Changed passwords, removed authorized users, canceled cards. The money stops today." Her face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, then something ugly. Anger. "You what? Mom, you can't just... We have bills. We have obligations. The mortgage is due in 3 days." "Yes," I said. "You have bills. You have obligations. Not me, you." "What are you talking about? I always paid them." "Yes, for 15 years I paid your bills while you talked over me, dismissed me, silenced me, at my own kitchen table, in my own house." Jessica's mouth opened and closed. "This is about Sunday? Mom, you're being ridiculous. You're blowing this completely out of proportion." $847,000, I said quietly. She froze. "What?" That's how much I've given you and Marcus over 15 years. I kept records. Every payment, every transfer, every covered expense. $847,000. Ear color drained from her face. Mom, we didn't ask you to keep track. You didn't ask me for anything. You expected it. There's a difference. This is insane. You're our mother. Family helps family. Family also respects family. Family listens when family speaks. Family doesn't silence family members at their own table like they're inconvenient children. Jessica's hands were shaking. So what, you're just cutting us off? Over one comment? Not one comment. 15 years of comments. 15 years of being invisible except when you needed my checkbook. Before we go further, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button. You have no idea how much it means to this channel. Jessica's voice rose to a pitch I hadn't heard since she was a teenager. You can't do this. What about Tyler's tuition? What about my mortgage? Mom, we'll lose the house. Then I suggest you figure it out. I stood up, carrying my coffee cup to the sink. My hands were steady. I felt remarkably calm. Figure it out? Mom, Brad's business barely covers our basic expenses. The mortgage is $2,800 a month. How am I supposed to get a job? The silence that followed was deafening. Excuse me? Jessica's voice was ice. I turned to face her. Get a job. You have a master's degree in marketing. You haven't worked in 12 years. It's time. I can't just get a job. Who's going to manage the household? Who's going to be there for Tyler and Sophie? Tyler is 21 and in college. Sophie is 17 and drives herself everywhere. They don't need a full-time parent. You need a full-time income. Jessica's face flushed red. This is unbelievable. You're really doing this? What about Marcus? Have you cut him off too? As if on cue, my phone rang. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. Yes, I said simply. Jessica grabbed her purse, her movements jerky with rage. Fine. You want to be selfish? You want to abandon your family when we need you? Go ahead, but don't expect us to come running when you need help. Don't expect us to visit when you're old and alone. This street goes both ways, Dorothy. She used my first name. Not Mom. Dorothy. I'm already old, Jessica, and I've been alone for years. You just didn't notice because the checks kept clearing. She slammed my door so hard a picture frame rattled on the wall. I sat back down at my kitchen table and waited. Marcus would be next. He arrived an hour later, more composed than his sister, but with that same underlying panic in his eyes. My son had inherited his father's height, but none of his humility. Mom, we need to talk. Hello, Marcus. Coffee. No, I don't want coffee. I want to know what's going on. My card was declined this morning. I called the bank and they said the account's been closed. My name's been removed from everything. That's correct. He pulled out a chair without asking and sat down heavily. Why? Because I'm done. Done with what? Done being. Your ATM. Done being interrupted. Done being ignored. Done being taken for granted. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. Mom, if this is about... Look, I know we don't always listen like we should, but you're making a huge financial decision based on hurt feelings. That's not rational. I'm making a financial decision based on 15 years of data. That's extremely rational. You can't just cut us off without warning. Why not? You never warned me that I'd spend nearly $1 million supporting grown adults who treat me like furniture. His jaw tightened. That's what family does. Dad would have... Don't. My voice came out sharp. Don't you dare use your father's memory to manipulate me. Your father worked himself to death at 52. I will not do the same. Marcus leaned back in his chair, a different strategy forming behind his eyes. I could see it, the shift from aggression to negotiation. Okay, I hear you. You're right. We haven't been appreciative enough. We've taken you for granted. I'm sorry. Jessica's sorry. We can fix this. How? The question seemed to throw him. What do you mean? How? How will you fix it, specifically? He spread his hands. We'll include you more. Ask your opinion. Listen better. And financially? His face hardened. Mom, you know I can't pay you back. I don't have that kind of money. Then get it. I have a job. Then live within your means. Stop asking me to subsidize a lifestyle you can't afford. It's not that simple. Emily's tuition alone is $18,000 a year at that private school. I know, I paid it. But Emily has a mother too, your ex-wife, who, according to the divorce decree I've seen, is supposed to split those costs with you. Marcus's face flushed. Rachel doesn't have the money either. Then Emily goes to public school, or you both get second jobs, or you reduce expenses elsewhere. Those are your options. They're not my responsibility. She's your granddaughter, and I love her. But loving her doesn't obligate me to fund her private education while you drive a leased BMW and vacation in Colorado twice a year. He stood up, chair scraping loudly against my tile floor. You know what? Jessica was right. You've changed. You've become hard, selfish. No, Marcus, I've become selective. There's a difference. This is going to destroy our family. Our family was already destroyed. You just didn't notice because the money was still flowing. He left without another word. No hug, no goodbye, just the sound of his expensive car starting in my driveway. I sat in my quiet house and felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, just a strange, weightless peace. The phone calls and text messages continued throughout the day. Brad left a voicemail calling me unreasonable. Tyler sent a text asking if his college fund was still available. I almost laughed at the audacity. Jessica sent a long, rambling email about how I was traumatizing my grandchildren and destroying their security. I deleted it without finishing. That evening, my friend Patricia called. We'd had dinner scheduled for weeks. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "You knew I was going to do it." "I had a feeling, after what you told me at book club last week." "How bad is it?" Jessica threatened to cut me out of their lives. Marcus called me selfish. Multiple voicemails using words I won't repeat. "And how do you feel?" I looked around my peaceful living room, my space, my home. My life that I'd worked for, saved for, built with my own hands and intelligence. "Free," I said. "I feel completely free." Patricia laughed. "Good. Now comes the hard part." "What's that?" "Staying strong when they escalate. Because Dorothy, they will escalate. When people lose their source of easy money, they don't just give up. They fight dirty." She had no idea how right she was. The escalation started 3 days later. A knock at my door at 7 a.m. I opened it to find my granddaughter Sophie, tears streaming down her face. "Grandma, please. Mom says we might lose our house. Is that true?" My heart clenched. This was the tactic I'd dreaded, using the grandchildren as weapons. "Come in, sweetheart." Sophie sat on my couch, twisting her hands together. She was 17, beautiful, with her grandfather's kind eyes. None of this was her fault. "Your mom's house isn't going to be lost," I said gently. "Your parents have options. They're choosing not to pursue them. But Mom said you cut us off, that you stopped paying for everything. Did she tell you how much I was paying? Did she tell you it's been 15 years? Sophie's face crumpled. "She said you don't love us anymore." There it was, the knife twisted expertly by my own daughter. I took Sophie's hands. "Listen to me very carefully. I love you more than life itself. You, Tyler, Emily, you three are my heart. But loving you doesn't mean I have to fund your parents' choices. Do you understand the difference?" I think so. Your mom has a degree. She's brilliant. She can work. Your dad has a business. They can make different choices. This isn't about you. But what if they can't pay for my senior year activities? Prom costs money. Graduation costs money. Sophie, has your mother told you to ask me this? Her silence was answer enough. "Sweetheart, I'm not the villain here. I promise you. This is about your parents learning to stand on their own feet. But if you need something, truly need something, you can always come to me directly, not through your mother, directly." After Sophie left, I called my attorney. Eleanor, I know, ironic given my own name preferences, had handled my estate planning for 20 years. I need to bulletproof everything, I told her. Smart. What are we protecting against? My children attempting to claim financial elder abuse, possibly seeking power of attorney or guardianship. I want documentation of my complete mental competence and the voluntary nature of my financial decisions. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. It's that bad? It's about to get worse. She was right. That afternoon, I received a certified letter. Jessica and Marcus had jointly written to me, CCing my doctor, claiming they were concerned about my recent erratic behavior and possible cognitive decline. They requested I undergo a neurological evaluation. I called Eleanor back. They're trying to declare me incompetent. Of course they are. Money makes people desperate. Can you come in tomorrow? We'll do a full mental competency evaluation with a court-recognized psychiatrist. We'll document everything. And Dorothy, start keeping every text, every email, every voicemail, everything. That night, Brad showed up drunk at my door, pounding and yelling that I was ruining his family. I called the police. They escorted him home with a warning. The next morning, Jessica sent an email to my entire extended family, cousins, nieces, nephews, explaining that I'd cut them off without cause and was showing signs of dementia. She asked them to stage an intervention. My phone exploded with concerned calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. The war had officially begun. I spent the next week building my defense like a general preparing for battle. The psychiatrist evaluation came back perfect. No cognitive decline, no signs of dementia, completely competent. Eleanor drafted official letters to my family members explaining the situation factually, with documentation attached. But my children weren't backing down. Marcus filed for financial guardianship, claiming I was vulnerable to self-neglect and financial exploitation. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so devastating. Jessica started a whisper campaign in my neighborhood, telling anyone who would listen that I'd abandoned my family and was not acting like myself. My neighbor Martha asked me outright if I was okay, her face full of concern and suspicion. The court date for Marcus's guardianship petition was set for 6 weeks out. Eleanor assured me we'd win easily, but the process itself was humiliating. They were treating me like a child who couldn't manage her own affairs. Then came the breakthrough I didn't expect. Tyler showed up at my door on a Tuesday evening. My grandson looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. "Can we talk, Grandma? Just us?" I made tea. We sat in my living room, the evening light soft through my curtains. "Mom's been coaching me," he said quietly, "teaching me what to say to you, how to guilt you. She sent Sophie here on purpose. She wrote out a script for me about needing college money." "I know, sweetheart." He looked up, surprised. "You knew?" "I've known your mother for 42 years. I know her tactics." Tyler's hands shook around his mug. "I'm not doing it. I wanted you to know. I got a job. Part-time at first, but they're giving me more. Hours. I'm applying for scholarships. I'm figuring it out." My throat tightened. "Tyler, you were right. What you said to Mom about me being 21. I am old enough to handle my own life. I've been letting you pay for everything because it was easy. But it wasn't fair. None of this has been fair to you." I couldn't speak. I just reached over and took his hand. "Also," he continued, "I found Mom's ledger, the one where she tracks everything you've given us. Grandma, the number is insane. How did you even—" His voice cracked. "How did you afford to give us that much?" "Very carefully, and by sacrificing things I wanted for myself." "Like what?" "I always wanted to travel. After your grandfather died, I promised myself I'd see Europe, France, Italy, Greece. I never went. The money went to you instead." Tyler's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just be different. Be better than they are." He nodded, wiping his face. "I will. I promise. And Grandma? The guardianship thing? Marcus told me he's doing it for your own good. But I heard him on the phone with his lawyer. He wants control of your accounts. He's not trying to protect you. He's trying to access your money legally." The last piece clicked into place. Armed with Tyler's information, Eleanor went nuclear. She filed a counter-petition exposing Marcus's true intentions, complete with phone records subpoenaed through discovery that showed his conversations with his attorney about managing Mother's assets for the family's benefit. The day of the hearing arrived. I walked into that courtroom with Eleanor beside me, Tyler behind me, and a file folder 2 inches thick of documentation. Jessica and Marcus sat on the other side with their lawyer, faces tight. Brad wasn't there, coward that he was. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Judith Chen. Yes, despite my naming preferences, the universe has a sense of humor. She reviewed the psychiatric evaluation, Eleanor's documentation, and Marcus's petition with increasing disapproval. "Mr. Morrison," Judge Chen said, "your petition claims your mother is incapable of managing her financial affairs due to cognitive decline. However, her psychiatric evaluation shows she's sharper than most people, half her age. Can you explain this discrepancy?" Marcus's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, our concern is that Mrs. Mitchell has made sudden, drastic financial decisions that are out of character." "Out of character how?" the judge interrupted. "Please be specific." "She cut off her entire family without warning or discussion. Her entire adult family who had been financially dependent on her for 15 years, while showing her no respect." The judge glanced at the documentation. "According to the evidence submitted, Mrs. Mitchell kept meticulous records of every payment, every conversation, every instance of being dismissed or silenced by her children. That doesn't sound like cognitive decline. That sounds like excellent record keeping." She turned to Marcus directly. "Mr. Morrison, I'm looking at your phone records. There are 14 calls to your attorney discussing gaining control of Mother's accounts and protecting family assets. Would you like to explain to this court which family member's assets you were protecting? Because from where I sit, it looks like you were trying to legally access your mother's money after she cut you off." Marcus's face went pale. "Your Honor, I was trying to protect her from making independent decisions about her own money?" Judge Chen's voice was ice. "The only person your mother needs protection from, Mr. Morrison, appears to be you." She denied the petition. Then she went further. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm issuing a restraining order on your behalf. Your children are not to contact you except through your attorney for the next 6 months. They are not to show up at your residence, workplace, or any known location. They are not to harass you via phone, text, email, or social media. They are not to use other family members to contact you indirectly. Do you consent to this?" I looked at Jessica's shocked face, Marcus's defeated posture. Then I looked at Tyler, who gave me a small, supportive nod. "I consent, Your Honor." The gavel came down. Petition denied. Restraining order granted. We're adjourned. Jessica tried to approach me in the hallway. A bailiff stepped between us, reminding her of the restraining order that was now in effect. I walked out of that courthouse with my head high and my bank account secured. But the real victory came 3 months later. The silence was golden at first. No demanding calls, no guilt trip texts, no grandchildren weaponized against me. Just peace, space, and for the first time in 15 years, the ability to think about what I actually wanted from my life. I booked a trip to Italy, 3 weeks in Tuscany, staying in a villa, taking cooking classes, visiting vineyards. I walked through Florence with tears in my eyes, standing before David, knowing I'd earned this moment. Every euro I spent felt like freedom. Patricia came with me for the second week. We drank wine under olive trees and laughed about our terrible children. Her words, not mine, though I couldn't disagree. "You did it," she said one evening, watching the sunset paint the hills gold. "You actually did it." I almost didn't. So many times I almost called them. But you didn't. That's what matters. When I returned home, I found several letters had been slipped under my door. Not from Jessica or Marcus. They were legally barred from contact. but from Sophie and Emily. Sophie's letter was heartbreaking and healing at once. She wrote about understanding now what I'd done and why, about watching her mother spiral into blame and anger rather than self-reflection, about getting a job herself and saving for college. She included a check for $50 with a note. First payment toward the future relationship we're going to have when I'm 18. Emily's letter was simpler. I miss you, Grandma. Mom says you're mean, but I don't think so. I think you're brave. Dad won't talk about it, but I heard him tell Rachel he should have managed his money better. Can I write to you sometimes? I cried reading those letters, not sad tears, proud ones. The restraining order expired after 6 months. Jessica and Marcus were allowed to contact me again. Neither did. Instead, I received a call from Marcus's ex-wife, Rachel. Dorothy, I hope it's okay that I called. I wanted you to know that Emily talks about you constantly. She wants to see you, and I wanted to thank you. Thank me. For stopping. For making Marcus face reality. He finally got a second job. He's paying his share of Emily's expenses consistently. He's becoming the father she needed. I know that wasn't your intention, but it's what happened. 3 weeks later, I met Emily for lunch. Just the two of us. She was 13 now, bright-eyed and chatty, and she told me everything about school, her friends, her life. She didn't ask me for money. She asked me about Italy. She asked me about my life. 6 months after that, Tyler graduated college. He'd finished on scholarship with the degree paid for by his own work and student loans he'd manage himself. He invited me to the ceremony. Jessica and Brad were there. We didn't speak, but after, Tyler hugged me tight and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me I could do it myself." That's when I knew. The money didn't matter. The years of payments didn't matter. What mattered was this. My grandchildren were learning to stand on their own feet. They were learning self-reliance. They were learning respect. And I was finally living my own life. A year after that courtroom, Jessica sent an email, short, clinical, through Eleanor as requested. "Mom, I'd like to talk. When you're ready." I wasn't ready for months. Then one day, I was. We met at a neutral coffee shop. She looked older, thinner, with new lines of stress around her eyes. She'd gotten a job, HR manager at a mid-size company. Brad's business had actually picked up once he couldn't rely on my money as a safety net. "I'm not going to apologize," she said first thing. "Not yet, because I'm still angry and I don't want to lie." I respected that. "Okay, but I need to tell you something." She stirred her coffee, not looking at me. "I hated you for 6 months. Complete burning hatred. I told everyone you were a monster. I genuinely believed you'd abandoned us for no reason. And now? Now I work 45 hours a week. I manage my own money. I budget. I pay bills. I have hard conversations with my kids about costs and choices." She finally met my eyes, and I realized I hadn't done any of that in 12 years. I just expected you to handle it like you were a bank, not a person. "Jessica, let me finish." Her voice cracked. "You tried to tell us so many times. At dinners, at holidays, in conversations we talked over. You tried and we didn't listen. We didn't see you. We saw a checkbook with a mom attached." The coffee shop noise faded around us. This was the moment I'd imagined 1,000 times, played out 1,000 different ways. "I was drowning," I said quietly, "and you never noticed because you were too busy spending the money I was drowning to earn and save." "I know." She wiped her eyes. "I know that now. And Mom, you were right about all of it. We were entitled. We were disrespectful. We used you." We sat in silence for a long moment. "I'm not giving you money," I said finally. "That needs to be clear. That part of our relationship is over." "I know. I don't want your money. I want my mom back." "Then you need to get to know her, because the woman I am now isn't the woman I was. I won't be silent. I won't be dismissed. I won't be invisible." Jessica nodded, tears sliding down her face. "Deal." It wasn't perfect. Marcus took longer, almost 2 years before he could face me. We still have complicated conversations. There are still hard feelings buried under healing ones. But my grandchildren, they call me regularly. They visit, they share their lives. And not once has any of them asked me for money. I'm 70 now. I have money in the bank that's mine. I've traveled to 7 countries. I've taken up watercolor painting. I've started a small scholarship fund for students in need, people who will actually appreciate it. And every single day, I speak. I share my opinions. I take up space. Because I learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is refuse to save them from themselves. They called me selfish for stopping the money. I call it survival.